That makes it official. So thanks.
Greg, you muted yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
So thanks for coming to the virtual meeting. Bylaws regarding virtual meetings have not been established, but we are required to hold a spring congregational meeting nonetheless. This is also called our annual election meeting, and we'll be holding our meeting electronically this year. Council has decided that with this virtual meeting, all elections and decisions voted on by the congregation will be honored if a quorum of at least 50 members have voted, and we got more than that today, so that's good to go. Please note that this meeting is for members of Principes only. If you are not a member, we ask that you drop off now. Because it is electronic, we know that not all members will have access to today's meeting, and we beg your forgiveness for that. Robert's Rules of Order will be followed. Therefore, motions and seconds will be entertained, followed by discussions and voting. Before we get to how you provide feedback and votes, we'll pause here for a devotion by Pastor Jennifer.
Pastor, you're muted, I think, or your audio's not on.
Pastor Jennifer? Are we still working on that?
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, sorry. Okay, so a short devotion called Wait on the Lord. Psalm 41. I waited patiently for the Lord, and the Lord inclined to me and heard my cry. With so many instantaneous forms of communication today, our impatience with hearing a reply from others is sometimes laughable. Someone I know sent an email to his wife and then called her by cell phone because he couldn't wait for the reply. Sometimes we feel that God has let us down when we don't hear an immediate response to our prayers. Our attitude can be, "Oh, answer me swiftly, O Lord, my spirit is failing me." But waiting for the Lord can transform us into a people of growing faith. King David spent many years waiting to be crowned king and fleeing from Saul's wrath. David wrote, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and the Lord shall strengthen your heart." And in another psalm, he encourages us with these words, "I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard my cry. The Lord set my feet upon a rock and established my steps." David grew into a man after God's own heart by waiting on the Lord. When we become frustrated with God's apparent delay in answering our prayers, it's good to remember that God is interested in developing faith and perseverance in our character. Wait on the Lord. Let us pray. Gracious Lord, in these days of waiting to see each other again, waiting to worship in person again, strengthen our faith and grow us in perseverance. You have called us and empowered us through the Holy Spirit to do the work of ministry. As we gather virtually to discuss the ministry of Prince of Peace, give us your wisdom. Lead us forward in hope, knowing that all things are made new in Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Amen. All right. Now, a little bit about the instructions before we go through the agenda. There are two ways for you to provide feedback, even though you're muted. If you move your mouse or your finger over the screen, you'll find a list of icons at the bottom of the screen, including chat and participants. The chat feature is the icon you can use to provide feedback, ask questions, or to make motions. The participants icon is what we use for voting. If you click on participants, you should see a second set of icons, including yes, no, go faster, go slower, and even more icons such as hands up or hands down. These can be used for voting. If you do not see those icons, you can still use the chat feature to say yes or no for a vote. And so Lori wants us to practice. So what we're going to do right now is to have everybody vote as to whether the Green Bay Packers will win the Super Bowl this season.
So there's two of us, Greg. Do we hit it twice?
You can only vote once. That's why we had a list of people who will be paired up so Jean can get a correct vote.
Okay.
But you have to vote as one. The votes are coming in. We have a very optimistic congregation.
What are we voting on?
Whether the Packers will win the Super Bowl this season.
Woohoo!
Assuming there will be one, right?
Yes.
That I doubt.
All right.
Okay.
So it looks like the tally's in 36 yes, 16 no. So now we're gonna, everybody successfully knows how to vote and also how to provide feedback. So we're gonna move on to the agenda. You can see the agenda in front of you on the screen. We've had the call to order and devotions, and then we'll have pastoral reports, nominating committee presentation, a vote to approve the nominations, financial update, long-range planning update, a reopening task force update, and then a closing prayer. And I need a motion for approval of the agenda for today.
Nancy, I'll move to approve the agenda.
And that's Nancy Showerman.
Hi, Ervin.
And there's,
I'll second it. I will second the motion.
that was Bill Lempesis, I believe.
Yes.
All those in favor can vote now. And it's unanimous, so we're going to move on to the pastoral reports. Jennifer, I'm bouncing it back to you again.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, good.
Yes.
Okay. So since our last meeting in May, we continue to worship from home, and staff also continues to work from home. We don't know yet when we'll exactly be back together as a congregation. So we are starting to plan for the fall, tentatively looking at having faith formation and confirmation online. We'll need to watch though and wait and see what happens with this virus and youth as they go to school. We want to make sure we do whatever we do, it keeps people safe and healthy, and also that it supports parents in this process. So this is still unfolding as we see how everything works out. And, you know, we just ask the congregation to be flexible with us as we continue to work through this. There are several other ELCA congregations in this area that are planning to do their faith formation and confirmation online this fall, and we will continue to consult with them. We are also making some plans to have our 9th graders confirmed in the fall, somehow, some way, and Brigetta is working to do this with the families. Our 4th graders were invited to receive their first communion online, and they did that on July 12th. Several of them did that. And again, you can see their photos posted on our Facebook page. We also have plans to recognize our graduates. This was going to be done earlier, but Karina, who works with our high school youth, contracted the COVID-19 virus. She is now recovered and will be working on an outdoor celebration for our graduates. Maybe like many of you, Zoom meetings now fill my days and nights. And one of those Zoom meetings is our book study called Waking Up White and Finding Myself in the Story of Race by Debbie Irving. Like many others, I was horrified by the death of George Floyd and also awakened to systematic racism in our country. This book is about the author's journey of discovering when, how, and why she developed her ideas about race and about being part of the dominant culture. The book has been for me, and I think others, helping us to become more aware of racism and our part in this dominant culture. Part of doing the work of racism is also understanding our part in it. And this is what the book is helping to teach us. We have anywhere from 6 to 12 people in this book study, and we always have good conversation. For the first time in a worship service, we lifted up Juneteenth, the day slavery officially ended for Black people, all Black people in this country. The ELCA provides an order of worship to help congregations do this. It was also a time for us, again, to address the issue of racism. We also are being supported by the Synod that has webinars for us on Tuesdays. Since we have staff meetings, we're not able to be there, but they are recorded. So later in the week, we can look at these different webinars on different topics. We also have a monthly Zoom meeting with the conference pastors, and we are sharing about what is happening in our congregation and what we're doing. And it's a good support for us as we go through this. Of course, none of us have ever had to experience this before. So it's good to have each other and to talk through this together as pastors. At this point, worshiping online, in my opinion, is the best option to keep us safe and healthy. I think we would all like to return to in-person worship where we can speak and sing and greet one another. But we don't know, it may be a while before this can happen. We are finding ways in this pandemic to continue our ministries and to grow new ones. And with God's help and strength, we are working to do what we've been called to do. The work of fulfilling our mission of growing in faith and reaching out in love. So thank you to all of you, to our past council members and Mission Endowment, and to those present people who have volunteered to do leadership. We appreciate all your support in this difficult time as we continue to do ministry together. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. And let's see, Pastor Roger.
Hello, it's great to be with you this morning, and thanks for making this effort to be here. I want to remind you that we're having later on at Congregational Meeting, we have a brief video that we'll be showing. It's a goodbye to Will Blado and Ruth Blado, and also we'll have comments from Will as well back to us. So I encourage you to stay on with that. Okay. I'll change my location. We'll see if we can hear better somewhere else. Are the mics off inside?
Roger, we're hearing you good. It's just a lot of feedback.
Maybe I'll use Jennifer's computer. So we'll play the two-headed pastor game here for a moment. Yeah, close this. All right, let's see. Okay. Let me kill my other machine here.
You're on mute, Roger.
Nate, can you get Pastor Jennifer's mic off mute?
There we go.
Okay.
I got it. So I want to thank the outgoing council members. Greg Knutson, our president, Nancy Shireman, vice president and chair of personnel, and secretary Jean Lee, and treasurer Tim Rowensky. And also want to give kudos to John Robertson, who's serving another term at large, and Bill Limpesis, who's completing a partial term and now signing up for another, as well as Gary Weisman continuing. So when you think back over this council over the last few years, they've had a lot to deal with. Only a worldwide pandemic, changing worship schedules by overseeing the congregational study and eliminating our 1045 service, doing a study and approving offering marriages to same-sex couples and to make us a more inclusive community, and helping to implement a Wednesday evening Oasis service to meet the needs of families who can't be here on Sundays but wanting to have worship for our youth, formulating a task force to maintain financial sustainability and working towards a balanced budget, formulating a task force to help us become more green and environmentally conscious and God's earth our hands, supporting outreach to Family First Ministries with our Martin Luther King celebration, re-envisioning a new emphasis with youth and rewriting the job description for a youth coordinator, and then calling Karina and on board, who's doing a great job, and supporting and restarting our long-range planning ministry and supporting our connections to the cross ministry. And that's just what I could remember. There has been so much behind the scenes that has been done. So we need to affirm our council for all their hard work, their dedication and love, and thank God for them. Also to our Mission Outreach Fund, we want to thank Mark Fergens, who's our chair, and Jean Lee, who have been our secretary, who are now going off. And also we want to thank Michelle Weisman, who's stepping into the chair position, and Pam Gruner in the secretary position. And a big thanks to our nominating committee for Eric Wingender and his whole team who filled these council slots and mission outreach slots. It certainly has not been business as usual, but the church has been adaptive and responsive, and a lot of that is due to your grace and patience and support and prayers. And so we thank you for all of that. I want to say thank you to our staff for all the many ways that they are engaged and involved. Lori Hansen, who's kept our online presence and communication running and answering those questions for the thousandth time that pastors can never quite get right, as you witnessed a little bit earlier with me. And Lynn Almquist, who keeps our records and bulletins in top form and helps stay in touch with our homebound members. Cindy Romnick, who makes connections with our shut-ins and those who have special needs. Sandra and Colleen, who have to do music without large gatherings and choirs, but have creatively helped people share their gifts. Dan Laporte, who is, even though he has health limitations due to his shoulder surgery in January and COPD, keeps in contact with the NA and AA groups who've had to discontinue meeting here, but whose needs still continue. So Dan stays in contact online and on the phone, and he's our chief morale officer. And Anna Reinhold, who stays in touch with our young families and is planning along with Brigitta on online faith formation. Ruth Nelson, who is the one employee you can count on being here during the week, comes to work, keeps our financial records in excellent shape, and is always there to cheerfully help staff and anybody who has a question. And a special shout out to all of our many volunteers, Bob Corey and Sherry Krinke for their work around the grounds, for Pete Miller and Ron Jones with property, for Dean and Kathy Buffington who help out cleaning the building in Dan's absence. For AV staff are Nate Rowinski and Nate Jansen and Tom Richmond, and so many others. And the list goes on and on. But you see how the congregation is adapting and doing the ministry that we have been called to do, and finding creative ways, and a lot of good opportunities are coming forth. And I think we're finding skills and joy in this that we never would have imagined. But do you have any questions for Pastor Jennifer or myself that we can answer as we go on? We've tried to cover most of the things for you. Okay. If not, I will just mute myself.
Thanks, Pastors Jennifer and Roger, for your reports. We will proceed on to nominating committee. And Nate, if you want to bring up that slide, we'll introduce Eric Wingender as a member of the nominating committee, who will give you the slate of candidates. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Eric Wingender with the nominating committee. First thing I'd like to do is thank the members of the nominating committee, John Kostelny, Janet Fulkerson, Bill Lempsis, and Anne-Marie Kozlowski. Team has been working hard to fill a number of open positions that came up this year, and they did a wonderful job. And we'd also like to thank the current council for their amazing efforts during this ever-changing and difficult time, for sure. And again, we'd like to especially thank the outgoing council members, Greg Knutson, Nancy Shireman, Jean Lee, Tim Rowinski, and from the Mission Endowment, outgoing President Mark Fergens and Secretary Jean Lee. So they all did a wonderful job for us. So without further ado, here are your nominees. For President, we have Mark Steiny. Vice President, Jeremy Doby. Secretary, Seth Rogers. Treasurer, David Volkman. At large, Bill Lempsis. And another at large, John Robertson. For the Mission Endowment, we'll have President Michelle Wiesman and Secretary Pam Gruner.
Thanks, Eric. I will now entertain, are there any nominations from the floor? If so, please put your nomination in chat now. Seeing none, I need a motion to approve this slate. And we got from Darboy Mike. That's Kalinowski, I believe. And do we have a second? John Robertson. All those in favor, please vote now. We have over 50 that have voted, and it's all unanimous. So the slate is approved. I want to thank everybody for volunteering to be on council and on Mission Endowment. It's interesting, the slate of candidates for council is that it's multi-generational. I think we have almost 4 generations that are coming on board to council, so that's great. We'll move on to the financial update. There will be several presentations on our finances, and we'll begin with the Treasurer's Report from Tim Rowinski.
I saved the best for last. General fund, 2020 year-to-date giving is $51,515 or $51,515 more than 2019 gifts. So we received significantly more gifts this year than previous years. As the chart below shows, 2018 we had a significant deficit. The purple burgundy line is the income, yellow is the expenses, and blue was the budget for the year. So year to date 2020, the lines are just about even, which is phenomenal. Year to date disbursements is $5,600, $5,700. So we spent $5,700 more than we've received. A big portion of that was the snow removal and salting was a lot more expensive than previous years and more than anticipated. So other than that, we are doing great in 2020 and on our way to a balanced budget by the end of the year. A building maintenance fund, we as a council adopted that we would go as spend as the money was available. So the roofs have been neglected for a number of years. The committee has told us that we can't kick the can down the road anymore, that we need to replace these roofs. So that's the plan. The dark blue line is the balance that we have in the fund, and the light blue is the anticipated cost to replace all the roofs that are in need of replacement, including fascia and other items related to roofing. So the complete job would be done. They're talking 40-year warranted shingles. So once this is done, this is behind us for a lot of years. So currently we have $88,000 in the fund and we need $118,000. As a council, the outgoing council, we decided that if we put the roof on prior to having all the funds available, we'll borrow from the reserves that we have and repay those reserves as the money comes in for the building maintenance fund. Any questions?
Here's one question. Tim, is the PPP loan included in the income, that chart?
No, the PP is not included in the income. It is part of the reserves currently, but is not in the chart as income. The income was all from gifts.
So just for people who don't know, we did apply for a PPP loan that is also will likely be forgiven. And we received $89,000 from the government with the promise that we would keep everybody employed and furlough nobody, which we did. And I have to thank the efforts of Tom Schauerman and Jeff Scheffler from Community Bank, who were very instrumental in obtaining these funds. I can't remember what PPP stands for, Payback Protection Plan, I believe. And again, it's funds received from the federal government because of the pandemic. There is another question regarding the roof, and I'll have to mention that there are people from property ministry that are available to answer these questions, including Ron Jones. And the question is, has there been talk about putting solar panels on the new roof? Is this included in the roofing estimate?
You want me to answer that, Greg? This is Ron.
Sure, thanks, Ron.
Sure, yeah, so that is not included at this point in time, although that is something that property committee that has moved forward for the council's consideration. So, but the current price and what we need to get done is to get the roof replaced, the shingles replaced. Tim mentioned it's about 5-6 years overdue. Every time we have a major wind event, we're picking shingles up off the parking lot. And as many of you have seen, occasionally we have trash cans collecting water with the leaks that have occurred. So we hope to get all of that behind us and good for the next 40 years.
We have received estimates for solar roofs that were done. Estimates were obtained in 2018, so I'm sure the estimates would be a little different now. But I believe, I can't remember, and they would pay back for themselves in 8 to 10 years, if I'm remember correctly, Ron.
Yeah, that's correct. It would be about 10 years, but the first step is to get a new roof on, and
Right.
then we could entertain putting solar panels on. estimated cost in 2018 was around $85,000 with a payback of 9 to 10 years.
More questions about the Treasury report? There's a question again about solar. Do we need to put fresh shingles on if we put solar on later?
So we have new shingles on. We can put the solar panels over top of those new shingles. And so we don't need to put new shingles on after that, except for 40 years down the road when the shingles need replacing again. But so we would be, I think the answer is no to that question.
Okay. Other questions with the Treasurer's report?
I have one. Al Peckham.
Hi, Al.
Hi. What kind of response are we getting, if you know, for donations from the red donate button each week as compared to people sending in checks, et cetera?
I do not have that answer.
That's a Ruth Nelson question.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, as part of the financial update, we'll have a report from the Financial Sustainability Task Force. This was, task force was started earlier this year. And I'll introduce now Brian Reinhold for a presentation from them.
All right. All right, thank you very much. So just to kind of give everybody a refresher on what this task force was, back in January, Council commissioned a task force to think outside the box to find creative solutions for Prince of Peace's current financial challenges. A lot of these were things that we were seeing kind of illustrated during the budget meetings of deficits where expenses were coming in higher than expected giving and what we'd seen in the actuals as well. So members of the group included Dean Gruner, Mike Kalinowski, Kevin Klain, Jim Lee, Linda Newman, myself, and Tom Shireman. And in addition to the directives set by council, our group was also looking to fully understand the current financial situation, identify root problems and causes, and then also look to identify both short-term and long-term strategic plans that would align with Long Range's 2024 vision of an inclusive and engaged congregation. So we began everything with an assessment. We looked at data from Prince of Peace over the last 10 years, and here are some of the notable items from that. So the first is that the number of new members per year has been steadily decreasing. We hit a high of about 46 back in 2013, and last year we ended at 20 in 2019. Total giving, if you look at it, has remained relatively flat over the past 8 years. Operating expenses have significantly exceeded general fund giving dating back to 2017, which again is resulting in these deficits that Prince of Peace has had to fund with cash reserves that had been built up over time. So kind of think of it as like a rainy day fund in the savings account that we've had to draw from in order to fill the gaps. The final point on this is that the 2020 budget included a deficit of $117,000, which would have depleted the rest of Prince of Peace's cash reserves by the end of this. Nothing was done. So as we continued through our assessment, we also came across information that was gathered by another congregation, another Lutheran congregation out in Bend, Oregon, Nativity Lutheran. We have a bit of familiarity with them. And they had done a survey of their synod of about 120 churches to kind of get a lay of the land as to where Lutheran churches were coming in these days. And they had two large takeaways from their survey. The first was that churches were seeming to fall into three different categories based on giving. There was thriving churches, which
Brian, I think
seeing giving increases of about 3 to 5% per year, about 10 to 20%. Oh, is that better?
You're back.
Okay. So they were falling within one of three different categories. So thriving, where giving increases were happening at about 3 to 5% per year. 10 to 20% of churches were falling within that category. Majority of churches were falling under struggling or surviving, where giving was basically remaining the same each year. And then the final category being declining or dying, where giving was actually on the decrease each year, and again, a smaller percentage of 10 to 20%. The second bigger takeaway from this was that they believe there's a strong correlation between financial giving as a result of active community-focused ministry. So as we looked at all of the information from Prince of Peace over the last 10 years and this assessment that was done by a congregation out in Oregon, our analysis was that Prince of Peace appears to fit within the struggling or surviving category, with 2019 giving really at around the same that it was 10 years ago in 2009. Expense management, open staff positions, cash reserves, paying off the mortgage, and one-time gifts and appeals have helped us to mitigate further challenges over the past 2 years. So there have been some positive things that have been occurring, but it's not necessarily they're what we would consider sustainable. And really, unless Prince of Peace is able to commit to membership and giving growth, we will remain within a struggling surviving church, or it could potentially slip into declining / dying if nothing is done for that. So after reviewing all of these key findings, the task force then set proposed membership and financial targets for the next 5 years that we believe would be needed in order to achieve sustainability, as well as maintain sufficient cash reserves, basically to make sure that we have enough money to pay for fixed costs, staff, building, even if the funds for giving in any given month don't necessarily match up to the full expenses. So those targets are as follows. Membership, the proposed target was to increase by 3% every year. This would be about 50 members. So this is taking us back up to that level that we were at around 2013. Just as a side note, this is not giving units. This is just members. Based on the information that we have, it seems like 50 members would equate to about 14 new giving units every year. On the giving side, or on the revenue side, the proposed goal was to increase current base membership giving by 3% per year over the next 5 years. And then also supplement that with additional new giving from the new members noted above, in order to reach the giving goals that we would need for the next 5 years. And then on the other side, in terms of addressing this from an expenditure side, the first thing would be to reduce planned 2020 expenses by about $32,000. So that's this year. For next year's budget, propose no increase in total budgeted expenses for 2021. And then in the following years, 2022 through 24, begin to allow budget to expand again, providing that giving targets are being met. So once we had the goals, the next part of the analysis was root causes. What do we believe is causing these issues that we've been facing over the last few years here? And I'll just preface this. This is a lot of, this may seem as kind of kind of a grim assessment in some ways, but stick with me because we do have, proposed solutions for all of these things as well. So, so what we did as a group is we sat down and we went through an A3 process, which is really a business improvement strategy. And so we were going through and had multiple renditions of, listing out, issues that we think could have been causing this, and then revisiting them over and over again until we drilled down into these 5. And so the first is that we have been inwardly versus outwardly focused and have been passive about asking people to join Prince of Peace. And I think this is, self-evident when you look at the new membership gains over the last few years, where we had a high of 46 and we have less than half of that 6 years later. So, having that come up as an issue. And then in terms of outwardly focused, I mean, Prince of Peace, we do a lot of work in our community. We are visible, but are we leveraging that and not just being visible, but also being inviting so that people are seeking us out to come grow their faith rather than, just saying, hey, we're here and waiting for people to come in. Second root cause that we identified is that our budget is not aligned with our growth and strategic priorities. So this is really a not seeing, budgeted expenses aligning with pledged giving over the last few years, and needing to make sure that we're bringing these two things kind of together in order to remain sustainable. Point number 3, or root cause number 3. We don't talk about money, and people's priorities have changed over time. So, particularly in a Lutheran congregation, money is kind of a taboo topic. And the issue is that if the only time, if we're not talking about it, or, at least having an awareness of it throughout the year, rather than just during the fall stewardship campaign, and then, once more again at the January meeting when the budget's being addressed, it causes issues in terms of people not knowing where the needs are or that there is a need. So can you go back one, please, Nate? I just have a couple more. Forward one. Okay. The fourth root cause, our current metrics are not aligned with our growth and strategic priorities. So long-range planning is putting together a plan for a more involved and inclusive and engaged congregation. But at this point, we don't have metrics to be able to measure, are we succeeding in those areas? So membership and giving is, something we can track, and it is fine to look at and important in their own rights, but also needing to understand, how are we doing in terms of, say, lives touched outside in our community. And then finally, the last bullet and the last root cause was that the world and our vision have changed, but our staffing model has remained largely the same. And so making sure, if we're coming up with a new vision going forward, needing to make sure that our staffing is in line with that to be able to deliver on it effectively. So with all those root causes gone through and with the targets identified, our group then began working on an action plan to create, to meet and address them. So have, Nate, if you can bring that up on the screen as well here. Hopefully there we go. Okay, so it might be kind of hard to read. There's a lot on this document, but it will be available for anybody who wants to look through it. All you have to do is email the office at admin, ADMIN, at popappleton.org, and this document will be available for anybody who wants to see it in its entirety or be able to review it. But the basic structure of it is we have all of the root causes that we just went through running down the left-hand side, and then we have recommended countermeasures, or I guess you could call them plans for how to address them. And then documentation on who would be leading those efforts, as well as by when we would be looking to have them addressed and completed. So to give a rundown of this, as you can see, we've in root cause number 1 of being inwardly instead of outwardly focused and being a bit passive about asking people to join. The first solution in there, or first recommendation, is to put the E back into ELCA. And E being evangelism and everyone, looking to create a plan for membership growth and participation, whether it means connecting with inactive members, finding ways to be more inviting in our community as well. And then other additional plans for that would be to further improve our social media and website marketing strategies, and also to create a plan for faith growing options for all adults, to be able to kind of expand that bubble out for people to feel that Prince of Peace has what they need and is a great place for them to grow their faith, and they feel that they can do that effectively with us. Moving on to the second root cause of our budget not being aligned, this is more of the numbers, nitty gritty kind of stuff. This was, we did go through in the budget, the 2020 budget, line item by line item. And if you recall, I had mentioned one of our goals was to reduce expected spend for this year by 32,000. And we were able to achieve that in going through the budgets. About 12,000 of that is related to savings that we just expect to occur naturally. In other words, we budgeted higher than what we believe we're actually going to need on certain items. Whether that included, I think there were some staff benefit packages in there, utilities, and a few other things that you kind of during the budget season were working with best estimates, and they actually came in lower. Another 12,000 of the savings was a result of working directly with all of the ministries at Prince of Peace to be able to, and working with them to determine where in their budgets they believe that they would be able to spend less this year or cut back on, or also find, while also looking for other ways for them to be able to accomplish what they want without necessarily tapping into what were previously budgeted funds. And then the final 8,000 that we found was within staff continuing education. So all of those funds were proposed to be essentially frozen for this year, which, given the way that COVID has been, hasn't been as much of a sacrifice as we thought it was going to be, just because conferences and things like that just are not occurring right now. So we were able to pull that back for this year. There are a few other items on here as well for potential further consideration for, say, 2021, or whenever we start getting back into kind of operations as normal. Some of these including looking for ways to involve more volunteers for things that maybe paid staff are currently doing, or looking to redesign our worship handout materials so that we're not only being more cost effective, but also reducing our carbon footprint as well. And then, as was mentioned earlier today, the applying for the PPP loan or grant that was created by the recent COVID-19 legislation is something that has also aided us this year. On the third root cause of not talking about money all that much, the list of proposed solutions would be to create a plan for member and pastor temple talks or sermons. So basically what this is getting at is trying to create more of a comfort level with being able to talk about money without it being such a sensitive topic. And so that we can address things as they come up, for the needs of the church. Also looking to make stewardship more of a year-round effort as opposed to just addressing it in the fall. And then also looking at a multi-year pledge drive to be able to fund the visions that we have for our church for the next 5 years. Being able to fund, ways to become a more inclusive and engaged congregation, as well as, say, the building projects that we would have on the docket for the next few years. Root cause number 4 of our current metrics not being aligned with growth and strategic priorities, the proposal is simply to determine what those metrics need to be and then to start measuring them. Something that Long Range is working on. And then finally, the world and our vision have changed and our staffing model has not been updated. So this would be looking to, in the context of our plan for the next 5 years as a congregation, looking to reevaluate our staffing models to make sure that we are set up to achieve that. So this has been the culmination of the work done by this group over the past 4 to 5 months. And so I wanted to thank everybody that's been a part of it thus far. And all the people that are going to be working to help continue to implement these proposals and these solutions. And I think at this point we can open it up for any questions or comments that anyone might have, and then I think we'll turn it over to Greg, because I think you said you wanted to take a vote on the amended budget.
So from Cindy Zarnik-Niemeyer, who made a comment, perhaps we can utilize Prince of Peace members' expertise to provide free staff development to the staff and members. So that was one of the major paid things that was cut was the staff training in 2020. Any other questions or comments? This group put in a lot of work, and you can see there's a lot of different roads being implemented that to try to get Prince of Peace back on the road to growth and financial stability. So we thank this group for a lot of effort that went into this. I am going to backtrack here, and Chris Volkman reminded me that we should make a motion to approve the treasurer's report. And he so moves. Is there a second? We got a second.
I second. Bill second.
So again, this is to approve Tim Rowinski's treasurer's report. All those voting can vote now. Great, that's unanimous. So I'm going to entertain a second vote now before we get to Tom Showerman. This is a vote to approve the budget changes that we've made since 2020, specifically the $32,000 in savings that was found with the assistance of Brian, Bill Lempesis, and Tim Rowinski. Can I have a motion to approve the amended budget? From the Showermans, is there a second? Good. And Nate, can you clear the votes so we can have a vote on this one? Okay, you can go vote on the amended budget. Super, that is approved. Now you notice as a part of Brian's presentation, one of the implementations was to do a multi-year pledge drive. A group of 10 to 12 members from Long Range Planning and Stewardship have come together and devised a plan that was approved at council on June's meeting. So before we get to the long range planning report, we'll have Tom talk about the special appeal that will be coming soon.
Good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to announce that Prince of Peace will be conducting a Vision 2024 appeal this fall that will run alongside of our normal stewardship program. With the important work that Long Range Planning has done and the Financial Feasibility Task Force, Prince of Peace is going to be engaged in significant outreach and growth of our membership in the next 4 years. Now, to support these goals, we as a congregation will raise over a period of 4 years funds to support innovation and technology, sustaining our current missions, and also to maintain our facilities in order that they are attractive and welcoming to new members and families, and also sustainable. The goal that has been established right now is to raise $450,000 over 4 years from 2021 through 2024. And this appeal, our building fund will be included as part of this appeal. And I know the question was brought up about solar panels before. We envision solar panels are going to be included as part of that expenditure we want to put into the appeal for Prince of Peace. I will tell you there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm right now at Prince of Peace in support for this appeal. We're going to be challenged by COVID-19 environment to be creative in delivering our message to everybody, but I'm sure and I'm confident we'll develop the methods to be successful. So this is a significant appeal to support some significant changes for our future at Prince of Peace. So plan to see more information in September.
Thanks, Tom. And now we're going to have a report for Long Range Planning regarding the very successful food drive that was held this spring. And I believe Mike Kozlowski is in the house.
I am. Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon, everyone, as we get that 12-hour bell. First off, I just wanted to thank everybody for all the support we've had for the food drive itself, but I kind of really wanted to go back to our long-range planning and really our vision statement that we developed over the last couple of years and has actually been approved by our congregation. I just want to read that just to reiterate that and make it resonate again with everybody. And our vision statement, as it was written and adopted, is to be an engaged and inclusive congregation of disciples, and then transforming the lives in our community through the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I think something that's going to be resonating a lot with everybody is, and keyed on as we start to look going forward in 2024, each and every year, is that part that's transforming the lives in our community. As we spoke as far as some of our monetary issues we've talked about that we've been somewhat of an inwardly focused church. And really, I think our vision within our vision statement itself and the new direction with Prince of Peace is really going to be starting to be that outwardly focused church, reaching out in our community. And that's definitely one of the key part of that. That's transforming the lives in our community. And that's all based upon the gospel, through the gospel of Jesus Christ. So part of that was our LRP, the food drive that we put on. We talked about some of the metrics as far as lives touched. And this was absolutely a key opportunity for us as far as a congregation to be able to step forward. The idea was born actually in mid-April at one of our LRP meetings. And within that LRP meeting itself, we quickly pulled together our team and just had all kinds of support throughout our congregation and actually our community to be able to do that. And as you can see, we actually was able to reach out to 149 different families where we put together care packages, which ranged right around $65 to $70 a piece. Include 2 boxes and all kinds of food items, which was very welcomely accepted by those families. We collected in donations over $6,000, almost $7,000, $6,895 worth of donations, and 6,642 food and hygiene items. So it really touched a lot of lives. And part of that just itself was not only just receiving those items, but the donated, but it's also the time and support from those members that supported the food drive. We had individuals that supported our collection days. We had members that were out in shopping teams. They went to multiple grocery stores numerous times throughout our community, grabbing all kinds of items, getting all kinds of looks from all kinds of people when everybody was segregated or was only able to actually accept 4 or 5 cans of this or 2 items of this. We were walking through the grocery stores with grocery stores carts fulls of 20 cans of soup and meat items, and they had all kinds of goofy looks associated with it. So, but we got through it and everybody really enjoyed it. We had individuals throughout our community and also our congregation that volunteered for decorating boxes to donate all those food items. You can see some of those pictures in there. And those were filled with messages of hope and helping those individuals as they actually received those boxes. We had multiple packing nights where individuals came and packed all kinds of these items into all these boxes and had all kinds of support, good community or good conversation between one another. And it was awesome to see the Lord work through all of us in our ways. We all came through together with a common goal. And then we also had distribution days where we actually pulled together on Saturdays for individuals that came and picked up boxes and donated them throughout our community to congregational members and school family members, which was just incredible. Just absolutely well received, and it was absolutely reaching out into our community and touching lives. Again, not only with our congregational members, but those community members and all those that were part of that whole team itself. So we really just wanted to touch base on this meeting itself, just to thank our congregation for the incredible support. What an opportunity it was, and absolutely something that we definitely want to discuss going forward as far as food drive is concerned. One other item that I wanted to kind of talk about, and I know it wasn't on the meeting, so I'll make it short and sweet itself, but we did talk about a marketing task force. And I just pleased to announce that the marketing task force has met over the last 3 months, and we actually have developed a marketing plan associated for our congregation itself. We're going to be presenting that to our LRP team at our next meeting. That's basically to review that plan and do a little bit of fine tuning before we move forward and put that out to the congregation itself. And part of that plan is actually an initiatives calendar with strategic events that are geared towards the target members that we actually had identified during our marketing plan itself. Some of those events are actually outdoor events, which could actually be implemented this fall. So a lot of exciting opportunities associated with that itself. So along with that team itself, just the team design and to coordinate the marketing strategy along with the multiple initiatives that were developed by the team. It's definitely something that I think once it gets developed and put out and accepted, it's definitely going to drive us forward into it. So other than that, is there any other questions?
From Dean and Grand, Pam Gruner, should we make the food pantry a regular work of Prince of Peace, maybe part of the innovation portion of our multi-year stewardship program?
So that is absolutely a topic of discussion, and there's absolutely been some large conversations around that, the funding associated with that, and also the support behind that. So I definitely think that there will be some more items coming soon that way. But yes, I think it's something that our team can rally behind, our congregation, and also our community itself. It was just incredible to see how many lives we could touch in such a short time frame. It was literally over 2 months. We reached out into nearly 150 families donating these items to. And with that type of support, that's an outwardly focused congregation. That's one that's caring about their community. That's the one that is actually reaching out and sharing the message of our Lord, through his gospel. So I absolutely believe that that will be part of our congregation going forward.
Excellent. Are there any other questions for the financial reports that have been given? Seeing none, I'm going to give a brief report on the reopening task force, which has met several times. It includes representatives from the office staff, from council, from property ministry, from assisting ministry, ushers, and personnel. And it includes the pastors. A table has been adopted that we hope will be approved by council, and I'm going to try to share that screen, Nate, if that's okay. And there it is up, and the table's been adopted for the phase reopening of Prince of Peace following the Badger Bounce Back program, initially formulated by the state, but now administered at a more local level. We are following the guidelines for Outagamie County, which Prince of Peace is in. There are 5 phases, including being safer at home. Phase 1 is for meetings of 10 people or less. Phase 2, 50 people or less with masks and social distancing. Phase 3 has no attendance limit or social distancing, but does require face masks. Phase 4 is back to normal. Just because the state or the community goes to the next phase, forward to the next phase, does not mean that Prince of Peace automatically will. We will keep the safety of our members in mind. The Prince of Peace table of guidelines is fluid, with changes made as the task force deems fit, and will be made available to members hopefully following this week's council meeting. It covers worship services, weddings, funerals, meetings, rental of church space. Until back to normal, worship services will require changes in communion, offering, seating, congregational singing, and post-service fellowship. We note that even with government directives, it is difficult to determine exactly what phase we were really in. But given the recent second wave, we believe that we are no higher than in phase 1. We plan on restarting in-person worship services sometime when we reach phase 2, sometime during that phase, when up to 50 people can congregate at once. We have taken measures to plan for that, including Perel stations, cleaning stations. A cleaning service has been obtained for cleaning between services. And we hopefully will get Prince of Peace members to engage in a face mask project so that we could have face masks available for those who don't have them. Currently, we do not have a date for in-person worship startup right now. And there's a possibility because of the second wave, it will not be anytime soon. When in-person services do start, we still plan on continuing the virtual service worship for those members who cannot attend, especially for the high-risk members who cannot attend. I look at this somehow as being kind of a snowstorm. We've been through a lot of snowstorms, which we're familiar with in Wisconsin, and being Wisconsin, Wisconsinites and Lutherans, what happens after a snowstorm? Well, we just get out the plow and plow the snow away. And we've had some pretty big snowstorms. And what we'll do with this COVID is just plow away again. Plowing can be a lonely effort and it's isolationist. So I want you to please keep your pastors and office staff in mind. They need your support, they need your communication, they need your feedback. We'll continue on now. I would like to thank all the retiring council members, Nancy, Tim Rowinski, and Jean Lee. They have been a source of creativity and stability on council, and I'm really thankful for those members that are now stepping off. I would like to keep you to keep in your prayers new council members Mark Steiny, Jeremy Dovey, Dave Volkman, and Seth Rogers. And please keep it in your prayers continuing council members Bill Lempesis and Gary Weisman. And please welcome Endowment President Michelle Weisman and Secretary Pam Gruner. And we have a closing prayer and video from Pastor Roger, I believe.
I would also like to say thank you too, Greg. You've done an awesome job keeping everything together, and you're not going unnoticed as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep, this is Pastor Roger here, and for a closing devotion, many of you may not be aware that Will and Ruth Blado have moved to the Madison area. And a week and a half ago, I had an opportunity to sit down with Will in the park. And on a 3-degree, 85% humidity day, with every unmuffled motorcycle in Appleton going by, and record some time with Will. So we can abbreviate this just a little bit. We'll have this up on our website as well, but it has address for Will to get in contact with Will and Ruth. And Nate, if you want to run this into about 4.5 minutes and start with Will actually programs, how they comments being there, Panics, that'd be great. So he's finding a spot, and it's about 10 minutes, and it's well worth it. To us and so many others, and to the gospel, you will be missed, and you're always deeply loved. A little bit about how you're feeling now as you leave the community that's been a big part of your life for the last 46 years. And
probably feel sad. But, like I said before, you don't always know what's going to happen. And I would never, ever, I thought I would die. The joke was, I said, my next place to live was going to be Riverside Cemetery. And it's just been unbelievable that what happened to Ruth happened, and it happened so quickly. So it didn't give us much chance to work out some plans. And I brought her in, and Dave and Bill and Scott. So very helpful and pleased making the transition.
And you're all going to be down in Madison.
Madison area. Ruth, at the present time, enjoys Stoughton. There's a senior citizen facility for her to live in, and she seems to have adjusted well. We were here at Eagle Point, and that just didn't work out for us. Plus, it's just going to be nice to be together with our family.
Yeah.
But it's, where you have one family, you have another. And you, as you said, room where you're planted, and you live in
People of faith, and you've lived that out all throughout your life.
Well, we had good influences, our parents. And again, what you've been given, we share. We feel very strongly about that.
Well, is there any advice or comments that you would want to make to people who will be seeing this?
Well, I just hope that our lives will inspire them to serve. And I think of, the whole idea of love God and love your fellow human being. That's the most important. That's permeated our lives. And I can take on any kind of ramifications. Doesn't mean you gotta be, I always thought, how do we serve? We serve in many ways. And some of those ways shock the daylights out of us. It doesn't have to necessarily be, stuff in the church. Because that's only part of our faith life, is because whether it's the community stuff, that's living out our faith. People think, well, that means you give money to the church. No, you give your life to the church. Not to the church, but to what God is giving you. Turn that around and live that out. And that can take on all kinds of ways which to happen.
When you think of all the many people that you interacted with in the ministry here in Acton, not only within the church community, but also in community activities and outreach, that seems to have been a part of who you are, how you were raised, what your faith has informed you to do. What would be your wish for others that they would, that you would be a witness for, as you mentioned?
See, I can't, it's like this last 3 or 4 months. I mean, nobody could have anticipated this. Neither could I. And it's, we die to ourselves or to whatever it is, and we rise to newness of life. And I think to be surprised by God. See, the thing is, we are the presence of Christ forever. And I think the word presence means a lot to me. We live that out. And if that's one thing I can say to people, don't underestimate your presence, because it's powerful.
I joke with people that I've known in the area and pastors that have been here longer than I have and have preceded me. It's kind of the comment of, they have a bishop up there or a dignitary from the mayor or something up there and say, hey, there's Will Ladle, who's the guy standing next to him. You know?
Well, you never know. Yeah. But I have, like I said, tried to integrate my life into the community. And I think sometimes people think I don't have, I'm talking about themselves. They say, I don't have anything to give. Well, you do. Your presence is really powerful. And I found that out through years. For me, I thought, oh, heck, I'm not doing anything. But then I hear feedback from other citizens of the community. It's true.
Well, Will, we love you. We're going to miss you.
Well, we're not. I said, I'm not leaving this place unless God's had other plans. In the last 7, 8 months, God's had different plans than I had. But who would have said 6 years ago I would have? I mean, I was going for walking around, and that was my ministry for many years. But God had other plans for me. And it's like he ain't done with me yet, but right now I'm struggling with what he's got in mind, and he ain't telling.
Thank you to you and Ruth for being great witnesses.
Whatever we did, and I think God bless that and continues to bless that.
Thank you, buddy.
So I say thank you to the Prince of Peace, all the lots. Sometimes they probably didn't fit quite right, but they built on each other. That's what happened with First English. Surely it's happened. Until I closed my eyes for the last time. There's still stuff going on. I'm not even aware of it. So that's what I would say to you. And I would say to all the folks of Prince of Peace, even the ones that you need to know. I'd say thank you. And there's an old picture of an old man going down, and I used, this was my sermon when I left Radford Parish 46 years ago. He had a stick in his hand, long white beard, and it was saying, keep on trucking. And I would say that to the folks of Prince of Peace. Keep on trucking.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome. Thank you. And Jennifer and all the rest of the council and people who serve the Lord. And some of those are still here, but some of them aren't. So that's, that sense of the song, All the Saints. And some of them are rest from their labors. And I think my parents, in-laws, but there's still a lot of them around. So that's it, my friend. And my friends, Prince of Peace. So the last man rise again.
Thank you so much.
No, you're right. If it's used to glorify the kingdom, then it is.
Oh, have mercy.
All right. Pastor Roger? Good. I think we'll conclude the meeting then. I neglected to thank Ruth Nelson for participating in the PPP loan effort. I'd like to thank Lori Hansen, Tom Richmond, and Nate Rowinski for putting the nuts and bolts of this meeting together. And I would just tell everybody to follow the science and keep the faith. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn? I got one from Darboy Mike. Is there a second? A second from John Robertson. All in favor, vote yes, no. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you soon. I'm gonna wait. Yeah, they dropped off. Good.
Hey, Greg,
Yeah,
do you have Seth Rogers' phone number by any chance?
let's see. I'm looking.
Okay.
No, I'm not finding.